Mike, I'm wondering, is Gerrit Cole the guy he was? And also, who is the other pitcher in that rotation that's going to consistently come up big for the Yankees down the stretch?
I don't think Cole is the guy he was at the beginning of the year. I think the spider tack and the sticky substance crackdown, it hurt him. Look at his stats, and they'll definitely show you it did. I mean, prior to the crackdown, he was sub-3 ERA, and then after the MLB started enforcing these guidelines and regulations, his ERA jumps to around a 4. So there's definitely the stats to back up that point, but he's still your guy. He's still your ace, and he's still shown that he can show up. It's just about him finding it, and you got to hope he does that by playoffs. I mean, you said he doesn't seem to pitch good against good teams, but I just point to Houston where he goes the distance and he shuts down the best offensive lineup in the American League. So I look at those points, and I really think that, this is a guy who can still be your ace. And even against the Angels, a couple days ago, he pitched 5 2/3, but he only gave up 1 earned run and 1 walk, 9 strikeouts. I mean, that's ace level production. So if he can replicate that going forward, he's still the guy. And Tyone's really been he's been an ace for the Yankees without Cole being there. I mean, he's been dominant since that winning pitcher of the month in July. So you really have 2 solid starters there. And with Heel pitching the way he is, he gives you third. And I like Montgomery as your 4th guy, even in the playoffs, because he shows a lot to me about keeping hitters off balance. He has a lot of off speeds. His changeup and curveball really get hitters out in front. So I like that a lot heading into the postseason. So I think that's a solid 4. And Colin, you asked me, do I expect to get Sevy and Kluber back? The answer is no. Anytime they tell me someone's going to be back for the playoffs, it's almost never happens. I mean, look at the setback Syndergaard's happened in Queens. He's just pitching off the mound again, but at any moment he seems like he could be set back 2 weeks. So I'm not expecting Kluber to Sevy come back. I think Kluber's a little more far along than Sevy is. So if you had one guy back, I would rather Kluber. So it's good. He looks like he's farther along, but I think you can ride with the 4 starters you have right now, and that's who you have to look forward to in the playoffs. I don't think you can rely on Kluber and Sevy coming back. I think that's unrealistic.
To your point on Cole, they have to hope that he still has ace-level production in him. You're definitely right. He pitched well against the Angels. He's pitched well against Houston this year, but it's Jekyll and Hyde. I can't help but be worried every time he goes out to the mound because you don't know what you're getting anymore. There was a time where every start Gerrit Cole made, he was consistently great. Now, did he ever fully reach that Jacob deGrom unhittable level? Probably not, but it was pretty close. I can remember in 2019 that Yankees fans didn't want anything to do with facing Gerrit Cole in the playoffs. So they really have to hope that he is somewhere near that down the stretch, and it's going to be interesting to see. They really, really need him to be that because you're right. I have to agree again, Kluber and Severino, no one should expect them to come back.
Yeah, I do agree with that. But when I look at the wild card game, for example, and I see Gerrit Cole as the Yankees guy they're going to put out there, assumably for the wild card game, and I look at who the Red Sox and Athletics have. I mean, Athletics have Bassett. I'm not overly impressed with him that I'm taking him over Cole. I mean, you go over to Boston, I guess a healthy Chris Sale's your guy, but outside of that, it's going to be Eovaldi. So either of those two, I'm still taking Cole. So when you look at it in terms of the wild card, Cole's still the pitcher any AL team that's in the wild card runnings would take as their guy going out there. So just on that basis, I still think the Yankees should be happy with Cole as their ace. Now, that changes if you get past there because the Rays and the White Sox have a much better pitching staff that they're going to roll out against the Yankees. But just getting into the playoffs this year and avoiding the 3rd and 4th place in the AL East and getting into the top of the wild card and winning that game would be great for the Yankees. And then anything after that, if they can find a way to get back into the ALDS or ALCS and win games and send into a game 6 like they did with Boone earlier in his tenure, that's something that the Yankees would really be accomplished about. But just getting into the playoffs would be enough, and I think Cole's the guy that could help him do that.
I think Cole would be most effective in a home wild card game, personally. I don't think you want him anywhere near a hostile environment like Fenway in a potential 1-game playoff. I just don't think that's going to work well for him. I think if he's at
I don't
home,
know. I mean, Colin, I point back to Houston. I mean, you can't get more hostile than that.
but the regular season's a different animal. All I'm saying is if you're in Fenway in October, it's a different animal altogether.
I mean, he's one of the best postseason pitchers when Houston. In that run, he was literally unhittable. It was like Jake Arrieta was with the Cubs in 2015, 2016. I still have faith in Cole when it comes down to crunch time. I don't think he's someone who backs down from pressure. I think if he gets hit, he just gets hit. But he's shown himself in the playoffs before. I mean, some of his worst games are in like meaningless outings, in my opinion. And he shows up in big games. And I mentioned Houston a lot, but think about all the starts he had for Houston when he killed teams like the Yankees and stuff. He's done it in big moments before. So I'm still, if I'm the Yankees, excited about turning to him over the guys the Red Sox or Athletics can turn to. I think there can also be different ways of looking at it. You know, Cole did get hit hard in Fenway this year, but I don't take that as much as what I look at the time in Houston when he was in the playoffs. I value that more because that's the playoff experience I'm looking at to judge him off of. And I think he can replicate that again this year.
I would value it more as well if I thought the stuff was the same. I mean, I'm not completely sure that his stuff is the same this year as it was in 2019. And I say that very generously because when you go to Fenway and you get absolutely shellacked the way he did a few weeks ago, it's not a very good look for your ace. I'd be tempted to put Montgomery out there.
I'm not
going to do it. I put Cole out. He is supposed to be your guy. But what I'm saying is, could Montgomery give you 4 or 5 innings to keep you in the game? Because as we've been talking about, the bullpen has had bright moments. There's times where Chad Green can give you 2 innings clean. There's times where Loaiska, you could stretch him an inning and 2/3. I'd be tempted to put someone else out there. Truthfully.
I think the only guy you could ever make a case for is Tyone to put out there the way he's been pitching, but you still go with your ace. I mean, all those playoff runs for the Dodgers, you know, you still go with Kershaw on the mound, and he came through for them in the end. You still go with your ace, and that's what you have to live and die by, and Cole's your ace. You didn't pay him the big money to not pitch him in the wild card game. That's why you paid him. So he has to pitch that game. And, you know, I point to his most recent start against the Angels. The stuff was there. 9 strikeouts, 1 walk, 1 earned run. He only went 5 2/3, partially because he ran the pitch count up high, and he's coming off of the COVID-19 setback that he had where he was out for 2.5 weeks. So when you look at all that, if Cole can carry it on from last start, I mean, that's the kind of form we've seen from him all along. The question is, like you bring up, will he carry it on? And I guess that's where we disagree because, you know, I like to think he will, and maybe guys like you think that he's going to fall back into the same problems he's had post, sticky substance crackdown.
I certainly would like to think he'll carry it on as well. I have my doubts that he can do it on the road. I believe at home in Yankee Stadium, he's fully capable of winning a 1-game wild card, giving you 6 2/3. But if he's got to go somewhere like Tampa or Fenway, specifically Fenway, I have my doubts, especially after how he performed there earlier this year on a random summer day. Worth mentioning as well, the Yankees have the best record this season in games that are decided by 2 runs or less. You got to think that's going to be important if they're going to make a run down the stretch here as we get closer and closer to the postseason.